If I had a guess, you probably have a mind that says to you, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. And the question is, where does that voice come from? In today's video, I'm going to teach you where that voice comes from and how we can start to release that voice. Those voices that continuously speak to you, they probably come to you in moments when you're in relationships, maybe when you go to buy something. There's just that voice that always makes you feel like you're not worthy, you're not lovable, but you probably don't know where that voice actually comes from. Well, these thoughts that are coming to you, where they are is inside of your conscious mind. And the wild thing is that the conscious mind only dictates 5% of your reality. So if the conscious mind only dictates 5% of your reality, these voices, these thoughts that come to you only dictate 5% of your reality. Well, where does the 95% that dictates your reality come from? Well, that's a great question. Where the 95% comes from is the subconscious mind. This dictates 95% of your reality. And where the subconscious mind is held is not inside the brain. It is actually held within your body, and more specifically, it's held within your nervous system. So these lines are going to dictate the nerves, the neural pathways in your body, which is your nervous system. So subconscious mind, it lives inside of the body. And so what's been stored within the subconscious mind is what dictates what the conscious mind thinks. The 95% dictates the 5% that actually comes out in your living reality. And where these stories come from are traumas, the traumas that you've experienced that are stored within your body and your nervous system. So this trauma is actually what is influencing the mind saying, I'm not enough. So these are the traumas that have been stored within your body. Now, what could the trauma be? So this trauma could be something you experienced when you were 5 years old. And that trauma that you experienced when you were 5 could have been simply just that you went to school, you did a school project, you were really excited about it, and then you went home wanting to tell your dad about how excited you were that you got a good grade on this project. But dad had a rough day and was not in the place to receive you. So when you go, Dad, look at this, I did amazing on the school project. And he goes, yeah, son, or yeah, daughter, like that's great. I don't have the space and time right now. Well, that trauma got stored within your body. And then it made you tell yourselves the story of I'm not lovable or I'm not enough. And now this causes these stories to continuously come out in your reality. So in your relationships, you don't feel like you're enough. You don't feel like you're lovable. So your whole entire reality reflects these stories that you've been telling yourself, which is really coming from the trauma that has been stored within your body. So if we want to change these stories, that means that we then need to heal and release these traumas that have been stored inside of your body. And so how do we do that? How do we release the traumas that have been stored in the body so that you don't have to live your life feeling like you're not enough and not worthy, so that is reflected in all areas of your life? Well, that is our next step. So, in order to release traumas, we have to allow the body to heal. And when I'm talking about the body, I'm talking about the subconscious mind. I'm talking about the nervous system. So we need to be able to heal the nervous system. And how do we heal the body? How do we heal the nervous system? Well, we need to have something that allows us to get out of the mind, because the mind is only dictating 5% of our reality. So if we just stay up in the mind, we're not going to affect the 95% that is really what's affecting our reality. So we need to be able to get out of the mind and go into where the subconscious is held, which is inside of the body. So we need to go from the mind to the body. And when we go from the mind to the body, that is what's going to allow us to access the trauma and ultimately allow ourselves to heal the trauma. So how do we go from the mind to the body, release the trauma, allow for healing so that these stories can change? Well, we need to have something that allows us to go from the mind into the body. Now, this is something that I've used with thousands of clients now. And it was ultimately what helped me heal from depression and these stories that I told myself 4 years ago. And it was breath work. Now, why is this? Well, the breath and what it does is it has been shown again and again to help people release trauma and heal the body. Now, why is this? Well, when you go into breath work, you go into a cyclical pattern of breath. What the cyclical pattern of breath does is it releases a chemical called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And DMT is mostly stored within your lungs. Lungs is where the oxygen comes in. It's where you breathe. So when you release DMT, what this does is it brings you from the mind, living in the mind, to being in the body. And when you get into the body, that is ultimately when you're able to feel traumas. And when you feel traumas, that is what allows them to release. So when you feel your traumas, these traumas start to be released and let go of. And as you start to release and let go of the traumas, that is when the mind and the stories that you tell yourself start to change. So as you release these traumas, what now happens is you have space inside of your nervous system. So as you create space inside of your body and your nervous system, you ultimately now have the space to fill yourself with love, the love that you didn't receive as a child, the compassion you didn't receive. You now get to fill your body with what you desire to hold inside of yourself. So as you start to fill yourself with love, what happens is that I'm not enough turns into I am enough. I am not lovable turns into I am lovable. And it's because you're not finding it outside of yourself. You're not finding love in a partner. You're not finding love in anything outside of yourself. What you're ultimately doing is that by going through this healing process, you are finding the love that is inherently inside of yourself. So you know that you are enough. You don't need somebody to make you feel like you're enough. You know that you are lovable because you are the one giving yourself the love, so you don't need anything. So these stories then completely start to change, and you live your life knowing that you are enough, knowing that you are lovable. And you simply do this by doing breath work. And so there are many tools and practices for breath work. The one that I recommend is called somatic breath work. Somatic breath work is going into a cyclical pattern of breath where there is an inhale through the mouth and an exhale through the mouth. And you do that repeatedly again and again and again. A great practice to just start with is 30 breaths into a 30-second hold. And you do that. You start with that. So 30 inhales, exhales, into the belly, into the chest, and then release. It's like just nice and easy in, nice and easy out. And you do that for, let's say, 3 rounds. 3 rounds, 30 breaths, 30-second hold. So on that last 30th breath, you take an inhale, you hold it for 30 seconds, then you exhale it out and you repeat it again, and you do that for 3 rounds. This is a snippet of a full breathwork journey. So when you really want to go deep into your healing, you want to do like 60 minutes of this, and you want to do it guided, ideally, and you have a facilitator there with you. But when you do that, that's what's ultimately going to allow you to fully get out of the mind, go into the body, and release. This will help you start to do that. And then once you start doing that, you can then go into longer practices. This is the exact process that I went through that helped me start to release these stories that I had inside of myself. Like 4 years ago, I was in a much different place. I was depressed and anxious and telling myself these stories, and then getting to the place now where I know that I am enough, knowing that I am lovable. It all came through the breath and allowing myself to feel my traumas and release them. And ultimately, it's allowed me to heal from autoimmune conditions and all these things that were stored inside of my body that were causing me to experience dis-ease and have these stories that were coming up. So if you want to allow yourself to change these stories and start to heal, this is the process of doing that. And this is the process that I've taken thousands of people through now, and they are completely transforming their lives. And it's something that I do inside of my program called Ascension University. I have this amazing community called Ascension University, where every single month we go into 2-hour-long breathwork journeys where we do some journaling, we share, and we do a 60-minute guided breathwork practice that is transformative. And I have guided practices that you can do every single day. And we go into our wounds, our traumas, ultimately allowing us to know that we are enough and are lovable. And when you know that, you can then live the life that you are destined for, like live your soul's mission. When you know that you are enough, you don't need anything. You can live in your soul's fullest expression. And so that is what I teach inside of the space. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click the first link down in the description and come and join us in that space. I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you enjoy this process, and I hope that you go into it for yourself. Make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Much love. Peace.